morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily this Monday morning. I am Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning. I'm Maupe Ogun-Yusuf, and we're both speaking to you from Abuja.
Well, from Lagos, I don't know if it's safe to say Happy New Year at this point. So our viewers, from me, it's a beautiful Monday morning. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
Well, you're not a new kid on the block, so don't even deceive yourself. Mayo Makinde. It's the 9th day in the month of January 2023, counting down to the elections. Good morning and welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Accurate date keeper.
I was talking about keeping the dates. Today happens to be that day when the CBN cashless policy will kick in. Yeah, that unless something changes. But I need to just ask a few questions. Maybe you can respond to me wherever you are if you like to. Have you gone to the ATM lately, last week? Did you get the new Naira notes? Or was it the old ones you got? Kindly let us know. What about the banks? Did you go to withdraw the money last week? You know, if you even tried this morning, probably, and you're watching. Did you get the new notes? If you did, hey, do let us know. You know why? Because there are so many people who approach me almost everywhere I turn. They can't get a hold of the new notes. And it's supposed to kick off today. And so all of that time that they've sacrificed, yeah, that's what they said, to go to those places and try to get the new notes, they can't get it. And the policy kicks in today, and you just wonder, what's going on?
What policy is kicking in today?
The cashless policy, the withdrawal limit. So if you, first of all, maybe I'll wait until I get to see the kind of response people are getting so that we're just sure, we will gauge to a certain extent what people are experiencing out there. Because for those who say they can't get a hold of that policy, they just keep wondering. So what really is this policy about? I mean, concerning the timeline that they've given. Are all of these delays, inaccessibility of those currencies not going to chip away from the deadline, the timeline that they've given, so that they don't keep saying, look, we like lastminute.com. Well, we'll hold our gunpowder for a moment on that one until we'll get to hear what you all are experiencing about all of that. It'll be nice to hear. But then...
Let me greet those people first.
Oh.
With a bit of violence. I hope that they're putting just as much of the effort they're trying to use to get the new notes in getting their PVCs.
Oh, boy.
So please, if you know that you haven't gotten your PVC and you're trying to get new notes, use as much of that energy you're using to pursue new notes to get your PVC, all right? Even though I am still trying to draw the correlation between getting new notes and cashless policy, because
and the PVC.
It's supposed to be cashless, no?
Yeah.
Which means you don't need the notes, right?
Enthronement of that cashless policy, that's what this is all about, kicking off on the 9th. But, you know, speaking about the PVCs and getting them, it's hugely important. And that's what, you know, we just continued following up, listening to the candidates in terms of what they want to do, why you should go and get it if you're not happy with what any one of them is telling you. Labour Party, incidentally, was their turn yesterday. That word. Well, they featured yesterday, and they talked about several issues from the economy to health to education. It was quite an interesting watch, a narrative from their perspective in terms of their manifesto. But what you make of it is what is of utmost importance, because you will be the one taking the ultimate decision as to who you would like to pilot your affairs for the next 4 years in the first installment or ever at all. So that is why it is important for you to go and get it. Because after all, what will all of this hype and everything be if you don't get to make that decision?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, even though, yes, I work here, you have to, we have to commend ourselves. If nobody praises us, we'll praise ourselves, because the idea behind having the people ask questions of the candidates, I think is very important in a place or in an era where oftentimes what you get is loud rallies where people just go to dance. You know, you see a lot of the candidates now coming up with their campaigns and saying, no, some will say, we're doing grassroots. That's why you're not seeing us do the big rallies. The big parties pride themselves in doing the big rallies and dance. And they give us a lot of, you know, how do I put it now? sound bites, one, and they give us sound bites, they give us entertainment, and basically that's where it is. If you want the manifesto, according to them, go and read it. After all, when they don't have it, you'll be making a lot of noise. When eventually they have it, go and read it. I remember Peter will be saying that yesterday. You know, it was interesting watching him alongside his vice presidential candidate.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we know that people don't read. So it is important that there be as many fora for engagement. And we need to enthrone the idea of town halls from the federal level to the state levels to the local government, but more essentially, as many communities has come up with the idea that they would like to have a town hall. So if women groups come up and say, would like you to come and answer questions with regards to concerns for us, by all means, come, go and have, you know, go and answer those concerns that they have. If youth groups come up, if young girls come up, if young boys come up, you know, as many town halls as possible so that people can, you know, engage with this candidate. So I first of all have to say that this is a fantastic idea. This is like the third in the series. Is it the third or the second now in the series that we're doing? It feels like this is the third one. Yeah, this is the third one. And it was quite a watch yesterday, listening to different people ask their questions, even though sometimes you have to ask, were they listening to the last question the last person asked? Because it seemed like he just answered this question. But I'm like, you know, that's the idea. As many, if you didn't hear the question or you didn't, that wasn't exactly the answer you expected, it was okay to ask him again.
Absolutely.
In another way, from another group, it was absolutely fine. I heard the women ask him the question about the gender bills so many times. What would you do about it? And as many times, I'm sure at some point he was exasperated, but hey, I was listening intently to that one too, you know, what he intends to do about the gender bills which were rejected. About the economy, his plans seemed very interesting. In healthcare, it was taken up on the fact that, you know, the doctors once went, or health workers went on strike while he was governor, and he answered that, you know, he answered that at least, I think, satisfactorily to the people who were listening. So this provides a platform for you to be able to listen to all of the candidates and compare. You know, compare what they intend to do in different circumstances faced with the same problems, and then you can make up your mind based on the solutions that they're providing. Of course, I'm not going to say that politics is not an emotional thing and there wouldn't be other factors that would influence your vote. But if we were to go strictly on you know, what each candidate intends to do, this helps you make up your mind, even though I do know that former Governor Peter Obi has also argued that, you know, if you listen to most of their plans, in some instances, they might sound similar. The question then will be, who do you trust to be able to fulfill their promises? After all, don't they campaign in poetry and deliver in prose? But hey, at least you have things to hold them to account to. You have their promises, you have them answering questions, and not just telling you what they will do. I'll give you 50,000 megawatts of electricity. How will you do it, sir? So these kind of discussions are very important. These kinds of engagements are very important. I hope that more of the candidates, we will hope to see them as we go to the elections. And I also hope that the people will also continue to take advantage of the opportunities provided to engage with the candidates. I'm sure my colleagues will also have a thing or two to say about the emotional moment for the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party. It was quite a touching one. Kayode and Ayo, I don't know, how did you see that?
Indeed, Mark, but I mean, it's not something you expect to see during events like that. You know, it's sort of political. Yes, it's not the usual campaign, and that's why this is very important, where we take a look at the major issues. But you didn't expect that. So when it came, a lot of people thought, okay, maybe this is something we might need to address subsequently, honestly, because I mean, politics should not be personal. There's always a personal angle, but it shouldn't go beyond just strictly the politics. And it's interesting, Mark, but I imagine no pun was intended when you said we hope that other candidates will come for this. And I mean, in the series, we're still expecting the APC presidential candidate whose, campaign mantra or manifesto mantra is renewed hope. So, I mean, imagine we're renewing our hope, expecting that, of course, this will happen because it provides a platform for all Nigerians to listen to them, to ask questions. And it was just amazing yesterday. And for me, I held on to a lot of, policy pronouncements from, the series from NNPP and, the previous series we've had. And particularly for this one, it was on subsidy removal. There was a talk of community policing. There was conversation around speaking with the agitators, to have some sort of round table. Let's all make the nation work. And for me, I just thought about it. All of the candidates naturally, honestly, would most likely promise subsidy removal. Why? Because the current administration says, well, we're stopping subsidy in June. So it is now, and it's quite interesting the way this administration handled it. It is not before May when the administration leaves. It is a month after May when the new administration will have come in. So whichever way, the buck still stops, or at least the responsibility will still fall to the next government to sort of decide after that 1 month what to do with subsidy. And most likely, I think the easier option would be to just remove it totally, really. So I think for that, all of the candidates might be consistent on that one. It looks like that. But one other important point for me, which I see different administrations or potential administrations, how they handle it. The current administration calls it brain drain, brain gain, this brain drain phenomenon. I recall the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, say, well, it's brain gain for Nigeria, since some of these professionals that go abroad repatriate money. I mean, you know how much Nigerians in diaspora actually send back home, billions of dollars yearly. And for this Labour Party potential administration, it is brain drain is better than brain in the drain. And that stuck out for me. So this is maybe a policy direction regarding how to handle brain drain as well. Allow them strive and develop their talents, their professionalism, and hopefully call them back, ask them, hey, do you want to be a part of rebuilding this nation? And it will be good to see how other candidates will also handle that brain drain, whatever it is you choose to call it, because it is a major issue for our nation, Nigeria.
Guys, there is no one, who has spoken that hasn't done something in the nation before, whether as governor, vice presidential candidate, whatever it is. So one expects that the experiences that each one of them has, you referenced the ones that we have had before. There is no need to repeat the same things that you guys have said. But for me, and I'll take from what Marquez said, at the end of the day, it is for us as electorates, especially the elites, because I remember Mr. Festus Okoye, spokesman to INEC, saying once that most times the elites don't come out to vote. Now, much of the conversations we're having with these presidential candidates on television is essentially for the elites to begin to interrogate the issues that are being marshaled by former governors and former presidential candidates who want to be President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and a whole load of others who may not have had any government experience at all that want to govern Nigeria. So it is for us to interrogate the issues as they are coming out. Look, it's like you want to get anything. You make all the promises. You want to get a job, you say you work, how do we say it when you're looking for a job? You work very, very well with little supervision, right? You make all of that promises, but is that really the case? I'll take from what Chamberlain usually says on this program. You know what someone will do by what the person has done before. So what are the antecedents of each of these persons in office, in government, whatever it is? That is what we should hold on to and say, okay, irrespective of the promises that you have made, irrespective of the rhetoric coming from your mouth, irrespective of the manifestos that have been promised. We've heard promises about power sector since 1999, and here we are still dealing with the same issues. So what's the assurance? Marco used the word how, and it's the question that should be asked by anyone. Last week we had a conversation with a strategist here who said, look, for everyone who wants to become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or even governor, the one question we should ask each one of them is, why? Why do you want to become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? If that is able to be answered, if any one of them is able to answer that question convincingly to you, then here we go. But the issues are being marshaled, the points are being taken by you, the media never forgets, the internet never forgets. Some of these issues are already out there in the public space. So how will it help you make up your mind about who to vote for? Channels Television has done its part, is doing its part, bringing all these issues. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Chamberlain.
All right, so while you think about that, we will be back in a moment with a look at some of the dailies today. Start off with the Guardian newspaper this morning. As you may have seen, the search ongoing for 31 abductees in Edo State train station attack. One victim escapes. Suspects nabbed, undergoing interrogation. Police, vigilante, hunters pursue armed kidnappers. Edo Deputy Governor Shuaibu visits scene. Presidency, Atiku, Okowa, others condemn attack. So you have all of that going on with the unfortunate incident. We're keeping tabs on that as well here today. We'll get to hear a lot more about it as we progress. But it is the big lead on the front page here today. And then just above that lead story, just one of those headlines you see above that, you get to read, reverse unlawful electricity tariff hike. Sarap urges Buhari. I wonder if they expect a response. Because
I was saying it that I noticed something in the last December bill I received. Well, I don't receive bills prepaid, but I just noticed that the number of units which I would normally buy
drops, right?
Yeah, for the same amount of money dropped. Dropped significantly.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was wondering whether it was my mind playing tricks on me, and I was like, I'm going to verify, I'm going to check. Only for Sarap to be confirming that indeed in December there was an increase.
And with those increases, you'll expect that the service will drastically improve as well.
In fairness to them, in my own area, the service has drastically improved. I'm not even going to
You're on special billing in your area?
So that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to make noise about it, because I said, well, it's possible that maybe we've been put on some premium line now, and you're paying premium money for it, and you don't even know.
So that's the thing.
I mean, but if I'm on premium line, I should know, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
What I do know is that the service has improved.
Some estates, that's special line. So, but several other areas, you get to hear lots of people complain that, look, we pay for these things, we don't get the service as we pay for. So there should be that charter of service. Whereas if you don't get the service as you should, it should reflect on the tariff. As opposed to just having a blanket increase, it doesn't matter, whatever happens, you pay anyways.
So I saw my mouth, in terms of that one. Let me just, deal with my problems in peace.
The same thing we see with some of these banks where these days now, there's something I think they call it electronic service levy. And you just wonder, someone said the
200 naira, 50 naira.
250 naira.
Yes, in some instances, yes.
And you're like,
what is going on? What are they servicing?
And it used to be, some places it was 28 naira, sometimes 27 naira, but you just wonder. Or is that in addition to the transfer fee? If you transfer any amount of money, they still charge you for
50 naira, yes.
Plus electronic service transfer levy. Oh, I rest my case.
You rest your case.
Temporarily.
Have you presented?
I live to fight another day.
The Abuja Inquirer is starting with some levies this morning. Not the lead story, but look at this one. As Abuja residents, they're going to start getting used to imagining that they were living somewhere in the UK or somewhere.
Say what?
Abuja residents kick as park and pay commences. So don't be very careful when you go and park your car. Don't park it anyhow. Look very well. Read the signs. If there are no signs there, then maybe we should take the officials off. But if there's a sign that says you're going to pay when you park here, You know, read the sign very carefully. I think that there needs to be a lot of awareness on this, though, because the last time they tried to do this, some 4 years ago or so,
it was hugely controversial.
Yes, I still remember, I think I was in Lagos at the time, so it was more than 4 years ago.
I saw some boxing matches on
Yes,
TV.
people were fighting. People were in fisticuffs to the officials because, you know, I don't know what was going on. But they're about to start again. How big how much of a bleed in terms of awareness they've had is very questionable. I'm in the media space. I haven't seen it. I live here in Abuja. I'm yet to really see how they're trying to get across to, you know, residents of Abuja in terms of this park and pay and how it commences. It's very much like what happened at the airport. At the airport, they started this park and pay thing in Abuja airport, and there was no notice until you get to the airport and you find out that, oh, I have to pay now, no matter how. I had to go and complain. You can't start like that. You just can't. You have to let people know that this is what you're about to do.
You know why? What? Service delivery in this country, I tell you, it's near zero. We need to do way more. And it cuts across board. Different sectors. Service, oh boy.
Well, that's one of the lead stories. Abuja residents kick as park and pay commences. Touts, fraudsters, hijack tax collection in Abuja.
How?
So you also have that. I mean, while you're about to start back and pay, you also have fraudsters and touts hijacking tax collection in Abuja. So who exactly are we going to be dealing with if we have any complaints with this back and pay, for instance? AMAC, DOAS, I don't know what agency that is, failed to reach agreement. FCT IRS mulls legal option. So this is not the time for the minister of the FCT to be silent, or the administrator, whoever is in charge of the FCT. There needs to be a lot of awareness and a lot of engagement with people to understand what exactly, this is the capital city. You know, we can't be seeing people fighting up and down because they don't understand policies that government is trying to pass down. If you can't do that in a place as the FCT, then where are you going to effectively be able to do that? Well, let's leave it there for the Abuja Inquirer.
You know, I'm fighting that temptation to say Lagos 1, Abuja 0. But then you come to Lagos and, you know, there are questions. But take a look at this Nigeria, and that's what we have next for you. And it's this big story. Started on Saturday, still unfolding, and it's a shocker, really, after the episode we had last year. And this is what you find: 32 missing after gunmen attack Edo train station. Yes, you read that right. And yes, it is in 2023, not the 2022 story. It is 2023. Take a look at the writer. Station manager, other NRC workers among abductees. One arrested as kidnappers contact families for ransoms. FG condemn attack. Edo government security agencies visit scene of incident. It's called the Tombikimi train station, and we'll definitely be taking a look at that extensively on the program this morning, because we do not want to have what we experienced last year again on our hands. So it's a sad one. It's a major one. We are not definitely keeping quiet on that story. So just hold on to that one. We're going to be breaking it down for you on the program this morning. Of course, that electricity tariff story from Serap is also there. Reverse unlawful electricity tariff hike, Serap tells Buhari. And just finally, don't vote on ethnic religious grounds. Obi urges Nigerians. I think this is something he has said time and again. And incidentally, you find some candidates saying it, then saying some other things, and you just wonder, what do you make of it? But that's this Nigeria for you.
We just need to drop all sentiments when it comes to these elections, because, as I often say, your Naira note has no feelings.
Can you really drop all the sentiments?
We need to, in our own interest.
I mean, largely people vote based on emotions. Who promises what? Who probably aligns with the future?
Do you employ somebody with...
Who is close to your family member? Who has been a benefactor?
Do you employ someone in an organization sentimentally?
I wouldn't, but there are people that do.
Which is why we shouldn't.
In fact, judging someone's performance, some will say it's sentiments, really.
Christ. Even with all of the parameters. Daily Trust newspaper this morning has same insecurity challenges on its... By the way, first of all, the train station story is also there. Edo train attack, ex-police officer, nursing mother, 3 others rescued. That's in parentheses. Find out the details on the inside pages. The riders, 32 abducted, 1 escapes. suspect arrested. And train service won't be disrupted. That's according to the NRC. But look at the major story. Insecurity festers despite Buhari's December deadline. 671 killed, 1,321 kidnapped since ultimatum. Attacks reduce in Kaduna. Others. Southeast records highest killings. And the last of the riders. Experts harp on intelligence gathering and community policing. The details you find on page 4. But the graphics on the front page gives you some inkling. What you have in blue are those who have been, the number of cases of kidnapping, and then the one in pink are states with the least casualty figures, with 1 death each. Well, all of that you'll find unpacked for you on the front page. The story itself is on page 4 of the paper this morning. Let's leave it there for the Daily Trust newspaper.
Have a look at leadership now. Insecurity, DHQ mum as military fails to meet FG's December deadline. Experts laud troops, say government made political statement. 19 wanted terrorists still at large. Trial of Boko Haram suspects resumes March. So that is a big lead right there. But then fuel subsidy will go immediately, says Obi. And then just beside that story, Tinubu to Nigerians, I will honor all campaign promises. So take as many notes as possible because he says he will honor them. So that is leadership today.
Well, Vanguard is the next one here, and they're focusing largely on the economy. 2023 outlook, economy will rebound with credible polls. That's attributed to bank CEOs. Election outcome to determine investor confidence, forex inflow, others. Economy will experience some growth, new opportunities. That's attributed to the CEO of UBA. Forex flows will benefit from post-election relief. That's according to the Sterling Bank CEO. Innovation in the digital payment space will continue. That's from the EcoBank CEO. So some interview with bank CEOs this morning, and this is their hope that economy will rebound with credible polls.
We also hope it will stop round tripping.
Well, a lot is certainly hanging on the elections. They also have the story on the Edo train kidnapped, terrorists struck because there's no security in station. That's according to witnesses. So there are questions as to why we're putting security on some stations and the train lines. What are we doing about others? Are we taking it for granted that because there's been no incident there, that there'll be none? The questions which we are going to be asking much later in the program. But take a look at this. Electricity, TCN boosts wheeling capacity to 8,100 megawatts.
Okay.
Jimberling, are you reading what I'm reading? At the bottom here, you also find polls. We must halt Nigeria's downward spiral to abyss. That's according to most who's in politics. In sports, there's something, language that people will consider unsportsmanly. But hey, I'm sure it's being read in good faith. Carabao Cup, it will be war. Iheanacho wants Newcastle United. So, I mean, interesting. People in sports world can say it to be war, even though in other fields we say, come on, be sportsman-like. Have the spirit of sportsmanship.
That'll be after the game.
After the game, okay. But during the game, it will be war.
That's right.
Anyway, let's leave it there for Vanguard newspapers.
Please don't try to say that for politics. Definitely, I know that's what you're saying. Yes, we don't use that in politics. We can use it for sports. Daily Times newspaper has this one on the February 25th presidential election, which will not be war, by the way. And you see why I'll discuss with every agitator, Peter Obi. And you see, Riders says fuel subsidy and organized crime, vows to remove it. And then there's a talk about power as well. All of that you find on the inside pages. I'll just take this one for you. FG shortlists 20 candidates for AGF's replacement. I saw that story and I was thinking, AGF, is it the Attorney General? But apparently, it's the Accountant General. So yeah, you know all of the fraud allegations and investigations in court processes instituted on him. So it looks like we're going to be having some sort of replacement since he's been suspended. And yeah, so that's just to clear that one out for you. Let's leave it there for Daily Times.
You know, we need to be clear which AGF is AGF. There's Auditor General.
I think that's a small UGF.
It's the same thing. AGF, Auditor General, Accountant General, Attorney General.
Yeah.
How are we going to delineate? Anyway, don't even answer that one. Nigerian News Direct this morning is also talking about the rail insecurity. It happened in Edo State. Again, gunmen attack train station, abduct over 30 passengers. As the riders, FG condemns kidnapping of passengers as NRC shut down a Kehe rail station in Edo State indefinitely. Well, it's very interesting, but we'll get clarity on that. On the one hand, you see information saying station shut down. Here, station is not shut down, but hey, the story is right there on page 4 of the paper. And a number of other stories, much of which we have heard before. But look at this one. Mass disconnection looms as customers owe discos 95.8 billion naira debt. That's definitely not prepaid. That's the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
Because it defeats the whole essence of prepaid, right?
I mean, come on.
But let's be specific. I know we've heard this before. They're saying some government agencies and all of that. So is this the same case? I mean, is this some of those reports we've seen in the past and they still haven't paid up or we have new debtors? It's important to be clear because the average Nigerian out there does not joke with their electricity payment, at least for the prepaid and even maybe postpaid as well.
You know, whatever it is, that conversation is endless, you know, Kade. We've had several conversations with a good number of people here on this platform, on this program, who have said, look, the weak link, so to speak, in the entire electricity supply value chain is discos. So all of those conversations we need to hear and be sure that exactly where is this coming from. Yeah. Because 95.8 billion naira debt, that business will go under. Chamberlain.
All right, well, I guess we'll just have to keep tabs and I don't know whether to say fingers crossed or something, but look, let me just go straight on to New Telegraph this morning. Presidency endorsements take center stage, weeks to polls. Debates over Obasanjo's walk on familiar path still raging. Tinubu Atiku continue attack on ex-president. Eminent citizens may not sway voters. Subscribe to a courier. And look, at some point, you might just play this. There's this video of the president on CNN talking about endorsements while former President Obasanjo did endorse him. He was very, very lofty and he spoke glowingly about that endorsement at the time. So I guess in politics, things just change before you know, with reckless abandon and breakneck speed, I might add. But yes, this is a lead story here today. And just reminds me about a certain book we're reading after 400 years of typography. So the print epistemology versus the television epistemology. But it just explains some things to you, really. And then look at this at the bottom strip. Edo train attack. 30 passengers, workers still missing. Gunmen free children. Woman escapes with baby. Oh. Police arrest one as security agencies, vigilante, local hunters comb bushes. NRC shut station indefinitely. FG Atiku Okawa condemn attack. I think there's been an update on that. NRC saying, no, we did not, but we'll get further information from them as we proceed. Old Naira notes, remember, old Naira notes withdrawal by January 31, counterproductive. Ndume says extension of 2022 budget implementation unrealistic. Oh, okay. That's New Telegraph this morning.
Well, Nigerian Tribune has this, also focusing on the incident in Edo State. 30 missing in Edo train station kidnapped. 2 children dropped. Woman escapes. 1 suspect arrested. Federal government says security agencies on trail of kidnappers. That's what the Nigerian Tribune has on the front page for you. You also see right there, article in London on British government's invitation. That's according to his campaign organization. Atiku, Tinubu, Kwankwanso, Obi in brisk moves for northern votes. So that is also there. A number of other stories at the bottom. Obi calls for multi-layer policing. 2022 floods affected 24,714 persons in FCT. That's according to the agency. And G5 governors just creating anxiety. Can't disclose another candidate other than Atiku. That's from Bola Rumi. You might want to know who that is on page 24 of the paper. Is it possible that they're finding it impossible to reach a consensus? Because we don't know, but you might want to flip to somewhere inside the paper to read that. And the picture you see there, what 1,000 words. Gunmen burned down renovated police station in Anambra. That is also on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. We'll leave it there for the paper this morning.
Certainly plenty to ponder on. That ends a look at the dailies, but we'll just start sooner rather than later with some of the matters we're focusing on. Security, as a matter of fact. In just a moment, stay with us.
This is what they call 21st century. When my customer say I want to use POS, I will just bring out my phone, open the application, press this code. I don't have anyone that using POS anymore.
A heavy presence of security operatives from the different security agencies in Edo State, including the Hunters and Vigilante Security Network. But this is an unusual sight at the train station. But actually, it's the aftermath of an attack on the station, Igweben train station, on Saturday, where an unspecified number of intending passengers were kidnapped. Even though rescue operations are said to have commenced shortly after the incident, deployment of more security operatives continues a day after. The Deputy Governor of the state, the Commissioner of Police with top members of his team, as well as representatives of sister security agencies are present, with the government insisting on its determination to get every member of the kidnapped victims rescued.
We will not want any stain in what we've done, and I can bet that there won't be stain. What we are concerned about now is to get these people out in safe and healthy. That's what we're interested in. And you know, whatever we have to do, lives are key, critical for us. So it's not something that we have to just rush. They are putting all their professionalism in place. Thank God, some of them are out, but everybody has to be out, not just. And we will not want to display and show you anybody for their safety and for not to disclose their facial look. But what is key is that we are already getting some of them out, but we want to get everybody out.
At the moment, service is closed to passengers. However, the tracks remain open to trains, which run on without making a stop at the station. Jessica Olubusere, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Well, yes, those gentlemen join us this morning to shed light on the developments, unfortunate scenario about the kidnap of passengers, train passengers in Benin, Edo State capital. Kabir Adamu joins us here in our studios. He is the CEO of Beacon Consulting, also a security risk management and intelligence solutions consultant. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Chamberlain, good morning.
Well, of course, you process, keep tabs on information, intelligence about what goes on in different parts of the country, particularly about this kind of scenarios. And, for those who are on the outside, who see and hear government say, for instance, last year, that federal government is putting measures to ensure real security is in place for the safety of passengers. Then you hear several enclaves of terrorists have been bombed. So we expect they would have been weakened. And then this onslaught, several directives from president. So many expect that this kind of scenario will never happen again, especially coming off the back of Abuja-Kaduna incident. And then this. How do we explain this?
In simple terms, first off, I think it's a failure to embrace risk management principles by the government. I'm a member of several associations that have to do with risk management in Nigeria, and we've been advocating that the government should adopt risk management. Security has evolved from just physical security, which is what we used to know. In other words, by deploying operatives or other aspects of physical security in a location, you would not achieve your desire to have quote-unquote absolute security. You have to move, as it were, transit to what the modern world is talking about, which is security risk management. In this instance, I have spoken in the past to explain that there are vulnerabilities that can affect the rail infrastructure. Let's remember that the rail line is not the only infrastructure. In this instance, it was a station that was attacked. Now there are 4 layers of security that should be in place in any location before you can boast and say, okay, I have implemented a security measure that is, well, near absolute. Number 1, the ability to detect. In this instance, gunmen moved from a particular location, we don't know where, all the way to this train station. Exactly. So that component, detection, appears to have failed, even though it's too early to reach that conclusion. Sometimes the detection takes place, information is transmitted, but nobody acts on that information. So it's too early to conclude whether it failed or not. But the result is that these people were able to achieve what they wanted to achieve. The second component is the ability to deny them access to their target, in this instance a station, which means there should have been reasonable number of security operatives. And let's not forget that there are, to my knowledge, at least about 19 security departments that have responsibility for the protection in every location in Nigeria, because it is their constitutional mandate. Now, I don't want to start naming names, but just to give you an example, the Army should be there, the SSS should be there, the Civil Defense, the police, name them, about 19 of them. Now, that didn't happen. They didn't deny this perpetrators, as it were. The third component is the ability to delay. So, for instance, let's say there are 10 operatives who are manning that train station, and then 30, threat elements, perpetrators, attack that train station. Reasonably, 10 persons cannot completely stop them, but they can delay them, which takes us to the last component, the response component. Yeah. There should be the capacity to call and ask for reinforcement. Now, none of that happened. They came around between 4 and 5 p.m., carried out that attack, escaped with the persons they abducted, we're told between 30 and 32, until date. Almost 2 days after, those persons have not been traced. Now, if you look at the map of equipment, assuming, for instance, I'm going with the media narrative that they are armed herdsmen. By the way, I don't think we should continue with that narrative. First off, it promotes stigmatization. It promotes profiling. I would rather call them gunmen, whoever they are. When the investigation identifies who they are, we can now reach that conclusion. They escaped with their victims, moved to, I looked at the map, and the nearest forest reserve to that location is about almost 100 kilometers or thereabout. So it means, assuming, for instance, that is where they are, that they were able to move in broad daylight between 4 and 5 p.m. Or let's assume, for instance, that the attack happened for, let's say, 30 minutes. Unfortunately, that information is not available to me. So they probably moved around 5:30. It's still daylight. And then moved to that location, probably an hour, which means they would have moved in broad daylight. Somebody somewhere would have seen them. Now,
yeah, but that speaks to how they moved with all those amounts of people
persons
and got to where
I'm
they were
assuming
going.
it's in vehicles, because if you go back to the Kaduna incident, that is what happened. They boarded vehicles and moved to the location where they hit those persons. What am I trying to bring out? Intelligence. Now, intelligence can be in different forms. It could be the structured one, which means you sit, you have platforms for the collection, or it could be, the informal way. I'm aware that the Edo State government has invested massively in intelligence collection. In fact, it's one of the few states that has a functional security trust fund. And I know this current governor has attempted to invest massively in the collection of, not just the collection of intelligence, but in the processing of that intelligence. So clearly, someone didn't do his or her job in terms of, first off, collecting that intelligence, processing it. Now, back to what I do. Like you indicated, I run a consultancy. And I have a fair understanding of the threat profile of Edo State. I know which local governments you have kidnap for ransom cases. I know which local government you have cult violence. I know which local government you have youth activism and then civil, strife, disturbances. Unfortunately, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, Igua does not come as one of the local governments in terms of the high ranking of its threat profile. Now, if, for instance, this is, I would say, one-off occurrence, which to me it appears that, then perhaps the analysis by the state government to have noted this changing threat profile that would indicate the possibility of this type of attack on a train station was failed somewhere along.
Just one more thing before bringing the AIG, former AIG. Now, what about the response? Because we understand that I think one person escaped, and then one of the terrorist gunmen was captured, and then they were working with local vigilantes. That component, can you tell us about that?
Now, like I mentioned, the Edo State government, as far as I know, has invested massively in intelligence and in security. So apart from the local government vigilante, there is a state-level security network, Edo State Security Network. Then there is a Hunters Association. And as far as I know, they were involved in the math of the incident. They are, quote and unquote, combing the forest to identify where these persons are. Now, if one of the perpetrators was arrested, I'm expecting that by now he or she would have been debriefed, and then whatever information he or she makes available will support the, combing, as it were, or whatever operations would lead to the rescue of this person. But beyond that, I think what is absolutely important is making sure that everybody is carried along. We've indicated several things. Of course, this is an ongoing event, so you don't want to be too detailed in what you are saying, but I have given indicators that if a good intelligence analyst would be able to sit down, use those indicators, and do, quote and unquote, a forensic investigation that would help in identifying the exact location where those persons are. We're not talking of 30 ants, we're talking of 30 plus persons, plus the perpetrators. It wouldn't be easy for them to hide.
Mr. Fedes Ogbadu joins us from Delta State. He's a former AIG of police. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, there's a huge component of intelligence, the functions of the police in this entire matter. We believe you also have, you're aware of this scenario. But what can you tell us about, for instance, the capacity? Because having seen this happen again, several people just keep asking questions as to whether or not we can get the kind of results we require given our security architecture as presently constituted. Can we make any progress with this? Where do you think we're missing something here?
Good morning, viewers, and thank you for this opportunity to address current challenge. Let me start by saying that we've, over time, advised government on how to tackle most of our security challenges. Rhetoric will not take us anywhere. Academic approach to all our problems will not take us anywhere. We need to resort to practicability. Whatever I want to do, put it into practice. For instance, in the Nigerian Police Force, there's a railway police command headed by Commissioner of Police. How effective is that railway police command? Then the issue of grossly inadequate manpower, the issue of lack of intelligence, the issue of synergy, and the issue of reverting back to state policing, vigilante in every community. We are not committed to all of this. Rather, we keep on spending so much money on some aspects, some arms of the government that are doing next to nothing and get so paid for so much. Until we prioritize security in this country, we'll be joking. I've always said security in this nation, like in every other nation, is like the foundation of a building. If your foundation is not strong, is not solid, any other structure you put on it will collapse. So let us prioritize security in this country. Let us not prioritize politics. For instance, why is it that most governors who are done with their 8-year tenure want to end up in the Senate? I know of a governor in this country who spent 8 years in the House of Reps, went to the state, spent 8 years as a governor, and is back in the Senate. Can we make security in this country as lucrative as that? Then we'll see a lot of improvement. We keep on deluding ourselves. Let us face that reality.
For some people, if you can hear me.
Security agencies are being told to confront security with their bare arms. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Instance, we understand that there was no security at all. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Mr. Ogbaldo?
I'm hearing you. Go ahead,
okay.
I'm hearing you.
Sorry to interrupt your thoughts there. But we understand that in this instance, there was barely any security at the train station where this attack took place. You've asked a very important question as to whether the railway police is still effective, and you said that there is a commissioner of police in charge of that. And this question is extremely important.
Let me interrupt you. I've talked about grossly inadequate manpower. If we have a railway police command, why is it we don't have enough men in every railway station along the rail line to protect it? That's the point I'm making. Our manpower is grossly inadequate all over everywhere. That's why I keep on talking about prioritization of security. We've made suggestions in the past.
So the question I'm trying to ask is that, will that be an acceptable excuse? Can you hear me?
The political will to implement it. It's not just...
Yes, will that be an acceptable excuse, considering our experience from March last year when the Abuja-Kaduna train was attacked? Shouldn't that have sent a signal that we will need some protection, however minimal, at train stations, even the ones considered, low risk, as the case might be?
That is what I'm telling you now. If the security agents are not empowered to spread their presence everywhere, to serve as deterrent to those that are planning criminal activities, it won't work. We need more men. If I tell the number of policemen we have in the police force in Nigeria today, you'll be amazed. We need to recruit more men, train them properly, make them to perform their duties professionally. That is what I'm saying. But that has never been addressed.
Okay. So from what we also understand, from what we also hear, the Edo state government has, a layered vigilante or a layered security system whereby the recognized government forces are there, but they also have some level of community policing. As a matter of fact, yesterday when our correspondent visited Igweben police station, we saw, not just the Hunters Association, we also saw a number of other community policing officers in their uniform at the train station. So there have been questions as to, in spite of having these layers, somehow this attack still happened. Is it really about not having layers at the community level, or is it about knowing where and how to deploy this level of security?
You are talking of vigilante men in uniforms. Can they confront those guys with their bare hands? No is the answer. And not just setting up vigilante groups, community policing here and there, and you back off. No. You must empower them to confront these guys. I was listening to one of the newspaper reports, and somebody said these guys came with sophisticated weapons. And when they say that, it means the weapons they came with were far, far superior than that of the police force. So we must wake up to the challenges. It's not just setting up vigilantes and community policing, and after that you pack off. That's why every state government should make sure if you are setting a vigilante group, community policing and all of that, they must be adequately empowered. And they must be all over the place. You see, there was something the governor of Rivers State made, the decision he took, something that's operating there now. He set up, he appointed, I think they were called PAs also, about 200,000 people in Rivers State to monitor politics. Those are the kind of things we should be doing for security. It's not just the men, but the empowerment, the training, the professional competence to complement the regular security agencies. But when you set up certain organizations, thereafter you back up, it won't work.
Okay, just before
if you have vigilante men,
just before I take this to, pardon me.
And these guys shooting sporadically with sophisticated weapons, what would they have been able to do with their bare arms? Nothing.
Right, pardon me, Mr. Browder. Just before I take this to Mr. Adamu, I'd like to quickly follow up on some points you made, just to lay the information bare. You said if you mention the number of police we have today, Nigerians will be shocked. So the question is, so how many policemen, or at least personnel of the police, do we have in the country? And in terms of the weapons, I mean, naturally we see policemen bear AK-47, which some will call high-caliber weapons. So is it possible to deploy policemen to such area or to any area and not arm them with the AK-47, which is the least we see with them?
Yes, it's possible. Like I said, we have a railway police command. So anything that has to do with railways, the police from that command should be there, 24/7. And like I always say, most of these guys strike because they go on there, they can't conduct their own intelligence. When you go to play, look around, no security presence, they're emboldened to strike. And they strike successfully.
Regarding the number of policemen we have, I mean, as at the last count, we've had, what, 300,000 or more. Has that number changed? Because you said Nigerians will be shocked if they hear the number.
That number is grossly inadequate. United Nations police station is 1 to 400. We're a far cry from that. How can you expect 300 and something thousand, 400,000 people, policemen, to police a population of close to 200 million?
All right.
And in a nation where most of the police officers are attached to key political office holders. People are busy blaring sirens with policemen in the vehicle in front and the vehicle at the back. And most Nigerians are left unprotected. A lot of their plate numbers are covered.
Very quickly.
So what are we talking about?
The issue that you just raised now, it raises one question on my mind, and that is exactly how many policemen are on the field doing the work. From information available to us, some of the numbers, the number of policemen that you just mentioned, some of them work in the offices, at the headquarters of the police and everywhere like that, the accountants and all those other clerical officers and all. And as you also said, there are some attached to what you will call VIPs. So then, how many men would you say, off the top of your head, are actually on the field doing the real police work?
They are very, very, very few. Because that total figure of close to 400,000 includes the professionals serving the police force, like the police medical corps, the works department, and all of that. So we need to address the issue of making available police officers that are going to do the police work, providing security for the populace. And we should stop emphasizing individual security and concentrate on collective security.
So you also mentioned earlier, Kadi asked you, you also mentioned earlier that we have a railway police command. Do we really have a railway police command now? Because from what information available to us, you know, witnesses, according to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning, they're saying that the terrorists were able to strike because there was no security at the station. So do we really have a railway police command active today?
That is what I've just said, if you got me right. We must put our acts together. If we actually have a railway police command, then those guys should be in everything, every spot, every location that has to do with railway transportation. That's the point I'm making. But that's not the situation. Look at between Abuja and Kaduna, how many attacks, kidnappings, and all of that. Then shockingly, in Igwebe, how many hours ago? 72 hours ago. Or one of the papers reported this morning that an ex-police officer, some other blah blah, have been rescued. When I was listening to a newspaper review on AIT, newspaper reviewers never bothered to read out that portion of those that were rescued. Rather, we're talking about just 2 children. So we really need to sit up. Let us address our challenges squarely. Face them frontally. In the National Assembly, Constitutional Review, they said I failed. To continue review, they allocated billions of naira for that exercise. Does that make sense? And how much goes to the police force? That's what I'm telling you. Let us prioritize police. Recruit more men, train them properly, equip them, then their motivation, their welfare will be taken care of. Then it will be all over the place.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Damu now, get him back into this conversation. Well, Mr. Damu, so earlier on you were talking about how, I mean, you assess areas, the threat levels, the kinds of threat they face, and you mentioned that this particular area didn't rank top, or at least didn't come up before now. I know there will always be questions about intelligence, but some time back, we had a group of people, of the Essam people, who are across 5 local governments, of which this one that was attacked is one of them. And they had raised this alarm, talking about, you know, their people being essentially farmers, and they've had challenges with armed herdsmen, in their words. And they've said that they've had this challenge time and again, and they actually had to call a press conference, you know, for the government and security agencies to know about what's happening, saying they can't even go to their farms anymore. And this local government was mentioned. But one point they raised, which I'd like you to speak to, is that they said that they have information that when these people are arrested, they're released eventually, even with their weapons. And this is something we've heard time and again. And I'd like to just know, in your investigation and gatherings, how can this be possible in such a way that we've heard it not once, not twice, and it looks like it keeps happening? How are suspects arrested and then released, even with their weapons, according to these people?
Thank you, Coyote. Yes, no doubt the phenomenon of farmer-herder violence, armed herdsmen attack is recorded, and it's one of the issues that affects Edo State. In fact, several travel routes, including the Benin, Ekpoma, and several other travel routes in Edo State, have constantly been raided and attacked by these armed gunmen, including armed herdsmen or armed militia, whatever you want to call them. That means, for instance, in the threat profile of Edo State, we have to take that into consideration. One thing that I think has emerged as common, not just in Edo State, but in several other locations in the country, is the versatility of this particular threat element, the ability to move from location A to location B. I remember that in some discussions with certain governors, it emerged that one of the best ways to reduce their capacity is to tackle this ability that they have to move from location A to location B. Why I brought this up is, even if they are not, for instance, active, which is the point I made earlier on about Igweben, what has emerged is that they were able to move from another location to Igwabe and carry out the attack and then move back to that particular location. Now, if you look at the local government in Edo State, that ability to move from point A to point B, unfortunately, is proving itself time over time. Now, I don't want us to forget that in 2020, during the NSAS protest, what we saw in Edo State, it showed us clearly that there are not just in this so-called armed herdsmen, but there are also several other threat factors. Prisons, detention centers were raided. Several prisoners were released. I don't think there is any other state in the country that suffered that as much as Edo State. Perhaps maybe Lagos. We do not have the figures of the prisoners that were released from captivity to compare between Lagos and Edo, but anecdotal information suggests that perhaps Edo would come tops in all the states in the federation from that. So yes, the vulnerabilities in Edo State are quite high, and what happened over the weekend is an example of that. Now, back to your question on why some of these elements will be arrested and they will be freed or released by maybe the police, the DSS, or whoever that arrest them. I'm not aware that that is happening. I've, of course, heard it severally by different elements of the society, not just in Edo State, but across the federation. And in fact, there has been accusations or allegations against this incumbent administration that they are behind that type of release. What I haven't heard is from the side of the security agencies to say, no, that's not true. If you arrest a suspect, and you are able to tie that suspect to a particular incident, what follows is that he or she must be prosecuted. So in address or identifying the root causes of insecurity in Nigeria, we have narrowed down to the failure of the criminal justice system. It's ineffective. It's not efficient in prosecuting offenders. Okay. Now, that is not specific to armed herdsmen. It is a general thing, not just to them. In fact, there is no offense that you pick that you cannot tie down to
what that means,
failure of the criminal
Mr.
justice system.
Yeah, I guess what that means is that the judiciary or the authorities have their job cut out for them in that regard. But speaking to this specific issue, something you said about the expansive network of activities that the Edo State government has come up with in terms of security, ensuring that they do what they can do constitutionally to protect their people. But then the question that I put to Mr. Obawde the other time is also right there on the front page of the papers, that the terrorists were able to strike and carry out this attack because, according to them, there is no security at the train stations. Now, juxtapose that with what you said, about Edo State government, and the fact that, as you said, they could have moved an hour, to one place or the other, and as we speak, we're still guessing or permutating. So, what do you make of all of these? Because for me, it sounds like there is a federal government element in the NRC, and then there is a state government element in the fact that this happened at a particular state. So is there a collaboration missing somewhere? What's the missing link going forward?
In simple terms, accountability. We've got a Minister of Transportation who promised us that the security level on the railway system is adequate, and that he's confident, and that is why he's resuming rail services when the Abuja-Kaduna rail services was resumed. And I am thinking that he felt that applies to all the railway infrastructure in the country. But unfortunately, this incident has shown clearly, and in fact has, confirmed what we said after he made that statement. Earlier on, I explained what a good security posture in any location should be, and I can tell you, with all sense of responsibility, that the entire railway infrastructure, unfortunately, remains vulnerable. If you pick those 4 things I mentioned and you attempt to do an audit, for each and every one of them, you identify vulnerabilities that every determined or non-determined perpetrator would be able to exploit to carry out the type of incidents that he carried out. Again, this is a public forum. You are careful what you say, but just to repeat myself, the element of detection And here you can speak of so many things. A good example is the CCTV. If you implement a CCTV system in a particular railway station, what it would help you do is to detect. Now, if you also implement it in the state, as an example, which I am aware Edo doesn't have, you will be able to do that. But let's even use the informal early warning systems. Almost all the 36 states of the Federation and FCT Abuja have early warning systems. What are these early warning systems? These are, as an example, some state governors have, engaged traditional rulers. They've given them phone lines, or even several community associations. It could be market women, it could be students, it could be the chairman of that local government who sees something, identifies it, and then makes a call to either the special advisor to the governor on security or the commissioner of police or whatever military deployment is in that. Those are simple early warning systems that will be able to identify variances within the community, report them to the appropriate level of security, and then a response element takes place. So that all comes under detection. The second component is the ability to deny. So in other words, the threat perpetrator has been identified, and then he or she is coming to a particular target, in this instance, a train station. There should have been that capacity to deny. And if you look at the pictures of the train station, there are fences, as an example. There are perimeter fences that were constructed. There is a gate. There are supposed to be armed security personnel, including the police, as an example, the civil defense, the DSS, name them. And just earlier on, my co-discussant did mention the railway police department. I am aware that it exists. I'm aware that they do deploy. And for every station in the country, as far as I know, there are a number of police personnel that are deployed. Likewise, the DSS, they also have some level of deployment within it. So accountability, I think, is the missing element. Now, that's for the federal system. If you move to the state system, like I mentioned, Edo State has its own security level, the Edo State Security arrangement. It also has at the local government a vigilante level. Now, accountability, I think, is the missing element. By now, I expect that whoever has responsibility for protection at that train station should be asked questions. In fact, I don't think I will be making an unreasonable statement if I say that person should be arrested, for him or her to explain, either at the federal level or at the state government level, why that incident happened. Because that clearly is culpability. You have been given a responsibility to protect the train station. That didn't happen. It was attacked. 30 plus persons have been abducted. Whoever has that responsibility should be held accountable. So in direct response, it's not an issue of just deploying. It's an issue of making sure that whoever has that responsibility answers questions when such things happen. If I'm going to move forward, this administration has barely, say, a couple of months remaining to end. So this is something that I believe the next administration needs to take seriously, security sector governance, where members of the security sector are held accountable for failures like this. If there is anything I'm going to say regarding the past 8 years, and in fact the years before the Buhari administration, is this single element, the inability of the Nigerian presidency to hold to account security management leadership that allow incidents like this to occur. So post-2023 elections, I'm hoping that we change this so that if any member of the security agencies, there are 29 of them, by the way, if they are given responsibility and failures like this happen, they should be held.
All right, Gabriel Damo, CEO of Beacon Consulting, as well as Mr. Felix Ogbaudu, former AIG of Police. Gentlemen, thank you both for making our time to speak on this very particular matter. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Stay with us. Welcome back. Mr. Felix Osakwe joins us next. He is the presidential candidate of NRM, Nigerian Rescue Movements. Good morning. Thank you for joining us
Good
today.
morning.
Well, we know, as you equally do know, security is a challenge in this country. Time and again, we've had cause to revisit these matters and ask questions of the authorities across board, as a matter of fact. Today, it's the main issue again here, and rightly so, we'll start off with that with you. How do you plan? What would you do about security?
Well, thank you, and good morning, Nigerians. For any candidates, as of today, I'm sure the priority is truly the security, because it's like the country is not safe. You can't travel by road. I mean, you can't sleep well. Reason being because you're not sure of what is going to happen next. Yes, as the president of Nigeria, there are a lot of things that we're going to put in place. For example, we cannot just tackle the problem of insecurity in Nigeria by just saying, oh, we'll have the military to go and kill everybody, I mean, the terrorism, and then Nigeria will be free. So we can't do that. I'll give you one example. In 2019, I contested, and I was the presidential candidate of DPP, while other candidates were all there telling Nigerians how to fix the road. I was worried about the security. So what did I do? The first thing I did, then the problem between the farmers and the Fulani herdsmen was like we have never seen this before. So what did I do? The first thing I did was to contact the president of the Metiala, and at the same time, the president of the farmers. So it took me time, though, while others are talking about electricity, which is normal. We have to all do all that. But I know without security, all this, we can do nothing about it. So finally, I was able to bring both of them together at Penal Apartments. We discussed at length and tried to broker peace between both of them. That's the farmers and the president of Metiala. And I succeeded in doing that. Surprisingly, in the end, we all ate together, drank together, they both hugged each other, and they promised that they're going to put it to rest. So had it been I won then, I think I would have continued from there. So for me, the first approach is going to be dialogue. And by the time the dialogue fails, then we can look at another options.
Well, how do you plan to start dialoguing on security, and with who?
Now, quite all right. As of today, there are some individuals that tells the federal government that once we have some kind of funds or what have you, we can go and dialogue with some of the leaders, whether the Boko Haram or the bandit or what have you. Yes, so we can start with that. Number one is to find out the root cause of this insecurity in Nigeria. So once we get to know the reason and the root cause of this insecurity, then we can start from there. And like I said again, not even only that, I think there are so many other things we can do in the aspect of insecurity in Nigeria. I once said in one of the television stations that I think another thing we should be able to do, apart from the dialogue, is to begin to secure, number one, our borders. Then number two, to begin to secure our communities. And I said one of the ways by which we can do that is to get all the traditional rulers, the emirs, the obas, the youth leaders in the community, get them involved, get them to be part of this, and not even only that, to have community police and state police, which by so doing, they understand the terrains of the environment where they are, the community, and they will be in a better position to be able to police and to guide their communities.
When you say dialogue, I believe you already understand what some of these people are asking. For instance, that of Boko Haram, you know what they say and what they ask for. Some of these terrorists who attack trains and kidnap people, you've heard some of them, what they ask for. Even if it's not official, at least you've heard snippets of what people think they actually want. So in consideration of all of those, you still think dialoguing with them will be an option?
Well, it's one of the options. Like I said, it's one of the options. Even in the international communities, there's always a time even the President of America will ask for dialogue to some extent. And you also remember, if we'll not forget this in a hurry, once in a while...
Yeah, but in those societies, the law is no respect of it. Security agencies, you have to do your job first.
Yes.
So several other things, probably at some stage. But if you're putting dialogue first, many would have expected. What about ensuring that those security agencies do their jobs first and foremost, no matter whose ox is God?
Yeah, like I told you, yes, we're going to do our job. And I never said we're not going to do our job. So like I said the first thing we're going to put in place in our outside dialogue is to make sure that we have a community police. And I've once said that one of the things we can do is to make sure that, for example, all the retired police that today they're not working anymore, we can bring them back and have them to police our forests. So, and again, our youths, many of them in the community, they understand the terrain, actually even more than the bandits. And the bandits cannot just come or Boko Haram and invade any village or any community without being there for some months. So to be able to understand which direction to go in case if they're to kidnap or whatever. So I say we're going to bring some of them on board and empower them, have what we call state police, community police, and forestry police. So by so doing, we should be able to have quite a number of them.
How do you plan to bring them back? Because have you done your study in terms of what were the circumstances that they left the service? What kind of training do they have? Are they willing to come back? What are you bringing them back as? Have you figured out how many of them are you bringing back?
I said, for example, I said the retired police, for example.
Yeah.
The retired police, they are well trained. And today, I mean, they are doing nothing.
You think they are well trained?
The retired police?
Yeah.
Of course they are well trained.
You want to take people who are retired and put them in the forest. I don't think that they will happily come back from their retirement.
No,
I mean, people would want to do things that are easy, maybe in the city or around the community where they belong.
Yes.
But to take them to the forest, are they still in active service?
Yes. What I mean by doing that, or by saying that, is that one, they have been trained. For example, if they see any suspects in the forest, they should be able to know that this guy is not a normal person.
No, the point I'm trying to make is when people look forward to their retirement, especially if it's going to be a relaxing one. If they put in maybe 35 years of service or they're past the age of 60, they're looking forward to a softer life, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And then you now say, oh, no, we're bringing you back and we're taking you to the forest.
Now, again, we're talking about
something that is going to be acceptable?
We're talking about the security of Nigeria, though. It has nothing to do with, okay, because I've been retired, it doesn't concern me anymore.
Yeah, but
everybody's worried.
The age of the people who you're bringing back.
Like I said, even the youths in our community, that we are going to bring them on board and empower them and allow them to be able to police their community.
Okay.
And I said that already. Then, but I think...
The youths are not the ones to go to the forest. It is the people who are retired.
No. Any one of them can go. After training them, any one of them can go.
Okay.
At least to be able to police our forest, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And that is where the Boko Haram or the bandits, that is where they're camping. So that's what I'm saying.
So I would like to ask you more questions as to why it is that you're in the race again. Last time, I think there were about 78 political parties which made it to the presidential polls. Today, I think we have just 18. And fortunately, your new party, because interestingly, DPP, which you campaigned on, whose platform you campaigned on, I do not know if they're still existent as a political party, but right now, you are no longer campaigning on that particular platform.
Yes.
At the last polls, you had roughly about 15,000 votes. Realistically speaking, some people will say that that is not very reflective of the kind of votes you should be getting if you're going to be making it as president of Nigeria.
Right.
What do you hope to do significantly different for people to know about your political party? Because this is January. And if you ask a number of people, the chances are very slim that they know you or your political party. So what are you going to be doing differently to ensure that the results of the polls this time around are different and are in your favor?
Well, thank you so much. In life, there's always a starting point. And 2019, that was the first time I actually contested. And I think I also did a little bit well, to the best of my knowledge. Of course, I started with SDP, then before DPP, and as an aspirant with SDP. And initially, we had 10 presidential aspirants with SDP, for example. And after the screening, only 5 left, myself, Donald Duke, Jerry Ganan, and 2 others. And, well, After the convention, there was a little bit of problem then before I moved to DPP. And now in DPP, 2019, yes, I got 15,000, a little bit more than 15,000 votes.
Actually, it was 14,300.
Yes, oh, all right. So interestingly, out of 74 presidential candidates, I came number 17. For me, that is a good start for me. And now we talk about national rescue movement. Yes, it might be new, but as of today, I think national rescue movement has a very huge structure in Nigeria. For example, if you check with the INEC, we have 824 candidates as of today. That is not easy. So for any party that can produce 824 candidates for 2023 election, and yeah, we can say it's a small party, but I think they have a very good structure. And so that we are working hard, and we're also consulting. We are doing one-on-one campaign. We are at the grassroots talking to people. The last time we went somewhere for consultations, more than 20,000 people came out there to receive us.
Now, if this was about,
we're still working on it.
If this is about a starting point, and people would say that it would have been better for you to start from your home state, for instance, maybe to be governor, for instance, assuming this way about a starting point. But if you're looking at votes, the number of votes needed to win to become president in Nigeria, you're talking about being number 17 out of 78 political parties. But the winner of that election got over 15 million votes. The next person got maybe roughly around 12 million votes or thereabout. These are votes in the millions.
Yes.
You got roughly 15,000,
yes,
which is really, really small compared to what you really need to be president. So I'm wondering, wouldn't it have been more realistic for you to have started somewhere at the state level or maybe the National Assembly, thereabout? Why do you seem to be insistent on being president?
Now, very well, you are correct. Like we rightly said, there's always a starting point. But I'm also aware there are few presidents from other countries who have never been in the House, never been a governor before, and they tried all they can. In the end, I mean, they got it. Now, the most important thing is this. I think Nigerians should be able to know what we have and what we can offer in times like this. For example, even Shagari had never been in the House. He was never a governor. He was never House of Rep member, and he became the president. So it is doable. But what we are saying is that what we have and what we can offer and the structure of NRM as of today, I think we have what it takes to get there. And don't also forget in a hurry that most times it's God that appoints a king.
Speaking about that,
yes,
you know, in your stint with SDP, you said God asked you to contest. I read a piece where you said God told you to contest. Was that right?
Yes, of course.
But then you've gone from SDP to DPP, now to NRM. You vied in those other two parties, you didn't win. But you have several people who would think, but wait a minute, did God tell you to keep moving from one place to the other and you haven't won?
As of today,
but God is not the author of confusion.
Yes, as of today, if DPP has not been deregistered, I will still contest on that DPP.
But God would have seen all that before asking you to go. Did you see, or you felt God told you to contest?
No, I didn't feel so. That is the way. You see, we cannot write out the presence of God and God speaks in a hurry. Either you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, there's always a time that God speaks to a man. So yes, God said to me that I should contest. And mine is to obey. I'm a pastor. And I've been a pastor for over 40 years. And it will also interest you to know that in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, as big as the Redeemed Christian Church of God is today, I was one of the first evangelists in Redeemed Church, first evangelist ever in Redeemed Church, in the late 80s. So when we talk about God speaks, yes, God speaks. So yes, he said I should do that. And that is when I tried it. And let me also say this to you. If God is not with me, I think it will be difficult to even get the presidential candidate. Very, very difficult. So God is being with me all through in what I'm doing now. So when God speaks, mine is to obey. But like I said, it takes God alone to anoint a king, to appoint a king. We can do all we can. But if God says no, then you're not going to get there.
Did he say no in this case?
Which case? In 2019?
Anointing you. Because it's one thing to get the ticket, contesting and winning. Different scenarios.
Yes.
Let me bring my colleagues from Lagos. They've got questions for you as well.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Well, natural question one would want to ask you is, I mean, there are those who wonder, first of all, have you started campaigning?
Oh, yes, we started moving, and like I said, our campaign is not like what the others are doing, but we started moving. We are more at the grassroots as of today.
Because there are those who will be wondering exactly what are your expectations. What are your chances, I mean, given the way everything has been going? Now, there are those who say that this is a 2-horse race, a 3-horse race, or even a 4-horse race, depending on, you know, who you are listening to. Would you say you are one of those horses? Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, now I can hear you.
Yeah. I said there are those who say that, you know, depending on who you are listening to, that there's a 2-horse race, the presidency is a 2-horse race, a 3-horse race, or even a 4-horse race. Would you say you are one of those 2, 3, or 4 horses?
I'm not hearing again.
Well, it's very interesting. Because, I mean, you said
Yes.
you could hear me. Go ahead.
Yes, you're right. Today, we mentioned about APC, PDP, Labour, and maybe NMPP. I understand that. But that does not guarantee that any of those is going to win the election. Because, like I rightly said, the time is very short, but I also know that we cannot rule out anything in Nigeria. In politics, anything can happen at any time. So we have 18 presidential candidates, only 4 is being mentioned. Then we have 14. So anything can happen in Nigeria. In politics, you cannot rule out anything. So I would say yes.
It begs the question again whether or not you have started campaigning, because as you said, I mean, these other political parties are making all of the noise. So many people are mentioning their names. So asking you pointedly whether or not you have started campaigning, and you're saying you have started somewhat, it means that no one is going to hear about you. So what are your chances then? Or are you just in this just to tick the box that you have campaigned as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria before?
Please, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Do you really want to be President of Nigeria? Because if no one is hearing about you, it begs the question whether or not you're serious about the presidency.
Well, a lot of people are saying, a lot of people are aware of me, and like I said, we'll be doing everything at the grassroots. So many people are aware that we are contesting, and so all the presidential candidates in Nigeria, I believe somehow, they have their own followers, and we do have our own followers too. So there are a lot of Nigerians who have heard of me, and as I'm speaking now, they're also listening to me, knowing very well that I'm out there to contest and to win the election.
You know, I think there's been a trail, a consistent trail of, you know, the divine. You referencing the divine, even saying at some point last year that, you know, Nigerian leaders must listen to God, they must obey God. And when you said you heard God, maybe what you heard was God asking you to contest, and maybe just to help people understand, maybe not to win, which you might want to clear. Did you hear that you would also win, hearing that you should contest? Because I know that that's also a major talking point for Nigerians. Religion, ethnicity plays a major role, but religion as well. So some are always wary when they hear God told someone to do this. It's always a red flag. So maybe just to lay it bare so they're clear which God and whether God indeed. Did you hear that you were going to win as well?
Okay, well, if I can hear you very well, yes, God spoke is one thing. And again, when God speaks, men elects. I want to make that very clear. So the aspect of God spoke, I think we should lay that to rest now. And now, even when God has spoken, it wasn't God that got the presidential ticket. I got the presidential ticket. So right now, as we speak today, we are in the race, and we're doing our very best to see that we can win the race. So the issue of whether God spoke or he did not, and we should put that to rest. And I think our focus now should be on election, on how to win this election. And I am saying we are doing our very best. We are doing all we can to make our name, to put our name out there, and for Nigerians to know what we have to be able to win this election.
Well, we'll always interrogate these issues, especially when other factors are brought in. I mean, you'd expect that policies should be the key conversation, but having brought this up time and again, it's important to help Nigerians perhaps see through it or see your perspective on that. But we need to go to break in a minute, but let me just give you heads up on what we'll be discussing. And it's about the grassroots, which you said that you have gone to. The people know you there, which is the mode of campaigning you have taken this time around. So that's what we'll be discussing. Bear in mind that the latest figures we've gotten from the NBS says that 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. A lot of them in that grassroots which you talk about, which you say that you are in touch with. So that'll be our next point of conversation in a moment. So please stay with us. Well, our conversation continues with Mr. Felix Osakoye, who is the presidential candidate of the Nigerian Rescue Movement, NRM, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you, Pastor Osakoye, for staying with us on the program. And so we're touching on a very important point, which is poverty in Nigeria. And I mean, time and again, we've heard presidential candidates saying, I'll lift this certain number of Nigerians out of poverty, I will kill poverty and hunger and all of that. But let's be practical. Perhaps for Nigerians this morning. And let me just give an example. So there's a certain individual in a rural area in Nigeria, maybe in the north-south, had to drop out of school because of challenges, funding and all of that, and took to farming. And currently this person has a family that has to feed off him or her, and the person falls in this poverty category, this multidimensionally poor category. What is your plan to lift that one person? I don't want to go 10 million or 20 million. That one person, which I gave the example, out of poverty, realistically, and over what period of time?
Well, thank you so much. I think one of the problems we have in Nigeria today as leaders is because our leaders is not being sincere to Nigerians, especially in a situation whereby the leaders care much about the elites, but not those ones that are suffering. Now you ask a simple question, what are we going to do? I think God has blessed us so much in this country that we need not to look for blessings elsewhere to be able to take Nigerians and those at the rural area to the next level. There are no states in Nigeria that God has not blessed with solid minerals. For example, like I said it before, what we have here in Kogi is more than enough to talk Kogi states and provide jobs for our youth, for those that are poor, even at the rural area. But for reasons best known to our leaders, they choose not to allow them to make use of the deposits that God has blessed them with in their state, in their community. There are no community, no local government in Nigeria that has not been blessed with one solid mineral or the other. And now, even in Kaduna here, as you know, we have precious stone, we have ruby, we have many of them in Kaduna State. If we tap into the resources in Kaduna State, I'm sure no youth want to come to Abuja looking for a job. Now you want to go to Ondo State, you want to talk about the bitumen in Ondo State, that is more than enough to take care of anything you can think of in that state, or you want to go to Osun State where there are gold and diamond. or you want to go to other states where there are a lot of uranium and all what I feel that is even more expensive than crude oil. So I think we will be able to do something differently for what we're doing today. How do I mean? I mean we should be able to allow the community to make use of the blessings that God has given to them. Allow them to develop the solid minerals in their communities. And they can easily, yes.
Let me just bring this in, just before we go. There's a certain Abubakar Aminu Birchi. He says he's the secretary of NRM in Katsina State. And he says that you are not their presidential candidate, that you are a factional presidential candidate because you're on somebody else's mandate.
Yes, I think that was a laughable statement. How do I mean? There was a candidate before I came on board. When he got the forms, I wasn't there. The arrangement between the former candidates and the party, I wasn't there. The arrangement between them about if you pay X amount of money and you cannot pay the balance until after the primaries, and then we will be able to replace your name. I wasn't there. Those are eternal arrangements. But when I came on board, there are a few things that I requested for. Number one, can I see evidence that the former candidate has withdrawn from the race, or there was a commitment that if I don't pay the balance of X amount of money, then you can replace me with another candidate? I wasn't there. And they showed me that, see, he signed, and we are going to conduct another primaries. Okay, when they said they are going to conduct another primaries, I was there. INEC representatives were there. The ESCO, the NEC, they were all there. And the INEC witnessed the second primary, and I won. So that's all I know. But in the end, they actually went to court. They went to Federal High Court. The Federal High Court said what they're asking for is baseless, so they lost. They went on appeal 2 weeks ago. In appeal, they lost again. So I think that is a thing of the past. So if you go to INEC today, the chairman that you will see his name in INEC is the one that I'm working with today. So we don't know any other chairman. And then there's another secretary again. So the secretary you're talking about, I've never met him, I don't know him. So this is the authentic, we have the authentic chairman today and the secretary, which INEC can verify. So anything outside that, I think we shouldn't even be discussing that.
We do know that if INEC doesn't put any candidate's name on the list, the only other thing that can happen is, unless there's a court judgment to invalidate that, that's what can happen. We do know that.
Yes.
But we're bringing this up because if at this stage and at this level you don't have their support, doesn't that take away from whatever chance
No,
you may have?
I do have their support.
But here he is disagreeing with you.
Well,
that's why we bring it up.
Well, that is what he said.
Because we don't know how many other people are along there, because we know politicians, yes, any advantage you can get, you grab it.
Now, you're talking about one person or a few others that has been suspended from the party.
Has he been suspended?
Yeah, by the NEC and the chairman.
I thought you said you don't know him.
Who?
I thought you said you didn't know this secretary. So how do you know he's been suspended?
No. There was a NEC meeting. And openly, it's in the air. A channel came, or the AIT came, everybody came, when the national chairman actually announced that this guy has been suspended. I don't know him. He wasn't there. But we have the NEC meeting, and everybody was there, all the officials, the ESCO, everybody was there. And why he's been suspended, that was between the party and the secretary. The secretary that was also appointed by the party. So why he's been suspended, it's only the party that can say that.
So you're saying that despite his suspension, he's still supporting you?
Who? No, he's not supporting me. I don't know him. I've never met him.
Okay, are you saying, I mean, what...
We have today, we have national secretary today and the national chairman. So it has nothing to do with the fraction that says, oh, we will not agree because for whatever reasons, the candidate is being replaced.
The point I'm trying to make is, the point you're trying to make is that your house is not together.
No,
there are a group of people who have been suspended. If there are a group of people who have been suspended or whom you're trying to get out of the party, Don't you need more people around you at this critical time?
The house is in order. Even in the family, there's always a quarrel. In a family, there's always a misunderstanding. Between husband and wife, there are misunderstandings. Between parents and the children, there are misunderstandings. And at times, the children will say, oh, I'm going out of here. That doesn't mean they are not going to come together again. Leave that to the party. This is party issues, and we know how to resolve our problems.
Are you concerned about vote buying?
How do you mean?
Vote buying yes. During the elections, pre-elections, etc. Are you concerned about it? Is this something that gives you source for worry?
Yeah, I'm not worried about vote buying, the reason being that Nigerians are wiser now, our youths are wiser now. So I'm sure that Nigerians will not allow anybody to buy them over. It's not going to be business as usual anymore. So I'm not even really worried about that. I think Nigerians are looking for a credible candidate that can take them to the next level. So I'm not worried about vote buying.
All right. So what about your own balance of the payment? Did you fulfill your own balance of the payment?
Yes, I've paid.
Oh, okay. But why do you have to pay for all of this? Because people say, look, you pay your way to get the presidential slot.
I don't know how, when you say pay your way, what does that mean?
You said you paid your balance. What balance did you pay? That's what I mean by paying your way.
If you want to contest as the president, you get your nomination form. And you have to pay for your nomination form.
Is it just nomination form?
That's what you have to pay for. After paying for your nomination form, you are good to go. The party is not going to ask you for a dime. They're not going to ask you to do anything. It's your choice if you want to assist the party or you want to donate anything. But the party will not come after you by saying, oh, you still have to pay more money. No. So there's nothing like buying here.
I think part of what my colleagues were also asking is they haven't seen your campaign, the presence campaign or marketing as you will. They haven't felt it. So do they expect, what level of campaign should we expect from you next?
Okay, like I said, we have been doing grassroots and all what have you. Any moment from now, and then we're going to stage our rallies in some states, and just like few others are doing, Nigerians should be seeing us very soon.
All right, Mr. Felix Osakwe is the presidential candidate of NRM. Thank you for coming on, and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so there you go. That is, do we have some comments? I think we may have one or two. I see people talking about the CBN cashless policy. Yeah, so I know I did ask a question or two about it. And look at this one, for instance. James, he says, good morning. He says, look, he is from Mina, Niger State. His own take is that he's here to tell Nigerians that the notes, the new Naira note, is nowhere to be found in their ATM. He has 3 different bank accounts. He's tried all of them, but they can't seem to get the CBN new notes. He says he has Zenith, Union Bank, and UBA. Nothing in all of those.
Well, that's one fortunate man who still has money after the holidays. Because for some people, they're going to be asking, withdraw what money? What money is left after the holidays? Well, I don't know. I see this tweet here from Festus Akimboyewa. He says, no doubt these terrorists engage in substantial planning before they carry out the attacks against hapless Nigerians. Does it mean that our security agencies can't disrupt terrorist plans before they're carried out? Time to arm the state's vigilante groups. That's from Festus Akimboyewa.
Well, take a look at this one from Adeni Kawe on the abduction as well, saying, given what happened last year and the promises that were made by the Minister of Transport, one is shocked at this incident. Listening to your guests and also resorting to common sense, it is clear that the government is not alive to its primary responsibility, which is the security and welfare of the people. We can only pray for the safe return of the abducted passengers, she says.
Vitalis on the State of the Nation says almost all the banks are still dispensing the old Naira notes. Maybe they're also aware that the old notes actually look beautiful. Well, for the collection of PVCs, I guess INEC needs to do a lot to address the problem. The process in most places seems very slow. It will be frustrating that after suffering to register for PVC, you're suffering for days to collect, to no avail, and you may be disenfranchised. Well, I collected mine on Saturday. Yeah. So,
lucky you.
Yes, I collected my PVC on Saturday, and the collection has moved to the localities now, and I think that's going to go on for a while.
Until the 15th?
Yeah, so the opportunities.
Why don't you
are
just
there
brandish it? Just, you know.
Come on, you don't
show
boast.
it off.
Yeah.
You don't
show
boast.
up and show out.
You don't boast, you know. There's no need to boast. Well, maybe I'll bring it for you
No,
to
please
see
boast. You can slap me with it, I don't mind.
You're too far
It's
away.
time to buga with your PVC if you have it.
You're too far away.
Dance buga with it.
If there is any boasting, we should be very proud of what INEC is doing, actually. They're doing a lot of work, and there are countless. When I took it up with the electoral officer that I saw, the INEC official that I saw at my local government, INEC local government the other day when I went to collect my PVC, I said, we hear there are so many PVCs that are uncollected, 6.7 million at that. She said, well, with her team, she said, no, that's for the old cards, that even those ones are reducing by the day because more and more people are coming to collect them. That's good to hear coming from an INEC official in Koshofe local government in Lagos.
Well, yes, indeed, I mean, I do have mine, so if you haven't, you should go get yours. That is what you require to move forward. Thank you for watching. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Thank you. I'm Mawakwe Ogun Yusuf. Have a great week.
I shouldn't be left out. I have mine as well. So. I'm Kayode Okikele.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.